All right, good evening, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and get started. We're gonna start the meeting. It's our regular city commission meeting on June 29th, 2026, starting at 6 o'clock. I don't have my gavel, so I'll just do all that. But we've got our flag, so please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a couple of announcements before we get started. Thank you to the library for hosting us on short notice. The elevators at the city hall are down, so thank you for everyone pivoting. If anyone needs restrooms, they're right out the door here. This is going to be our space for any kind of public comment and presentations. So yeah, welcome to the library. Now we'll move along to approval of the agenda. What is the pleasure of the commission?
I move to approve the agenda as presented. Support.
Abby, call the roll.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Thorold?
Yes.
Commissioner Ulrich?
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley?
Yeah. Great. Now we'll move on to public comment. Again, the podium is right up here. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. State your name and address and come on up. Or not. Anybody? Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Ken Flowers. I am the recently named president of Lake Michigan College. I just came to the city meeting to introduce myself to all of you. I have worked at the college for over 27 years. I grew up and lived in this community my whole life and actually went to high school, Lake Michigan Catholic, just up the street here. And so one of the things that we really appreciate is all the continued support of the college that we continue to have gotten from the city and from the community. And I look forward to being able to serve you at the college. So thank you very much. And it was great meeting all of you. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Any other public comment? Come on up.
Carl Meyer, 505 Pleasant. I'd like to take 3 minutes to give you some historical information on the city of St. Joe. I gave you a brochure with an introduction. I'll tell you, when we purchased the 505 building, we could not find very much information on the building. So started doing historical work. Before you have a breakdown of items starting all the way back to 1669, all the way up. It lists various things that occurred and such. So what we found out from doing this historical search is that the mayor built the building, 1904. He was the mayor for 3 consecutive years, 1910 only. He only wanted to go 2 terms, left for Florida, came back and found out it was a write-in vote for a term. So he was quite an individual. He built our building, go across to the east of the alley, the other 2 buildings, he built those out of his own funds. He lived at 614 State Street, which I own the building too. Unbelievable. And so some of the information I'd like the city to be proactive in is talk about historical things within the city. For instance, in 1894, you had 2 brothers that built the first automobile in the United States. Not the first automobile, but the first one built in the United States. And they drove it around the city of St. Joe a lot. So that's the information. The second item I'd like to give you is a summary of the first in time flight of an airplane. The Wright brothers have the first flight because it was a controlled airplane. This was more of a glider, but it happened down on Silver Beach. Kelly has information, newspaper articles that I gave her and such. And I am proposing to build with your approval, a plaque on the bluff in recognition of this individual, to talk about it, and such. Those are the two things. I will tell you also, the mayor was quite, a wood craftsman person. He went over to Chicago, got mahogany wood from a shipwreck, came back and built a desk. That desk is in the 505 building for everybody's viewing and information about the mayor. I hope you take a look at it. I hope we can get together and build a plaque on the book. That's my 3 minutes.
Thank you. Just under. Any other public comment? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda. Items include the meeting minutes of June 8th, 2026, invoice and tax disbursements, St. Joseph Housing Commission monthly update for March and April 2026, fee schedule update, location change, current seasonal vendor, peddler application, Renewity LLC, purchase of public safety squad cars, encryption of Motorola 800 radios, and the JWWTP sanitary sewer service agreement, St. Joe CT East. What is the pleasure of the commission?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Stroller,
Yes.
Commissioner Overy,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes. All right, on to old business. We've got public hearing findings of fact for denial of special use permit for short-term rental 520 State and 515 Market Streets. Okay. Here comes that. Public hearing? Yeah, do you want me to open the public hearing right now? Okay, so the public hearing starts at 6:07 PM. Go ahead, Lori.
All right, just for the background here, there was an application filed by Brian Barrett on behalf of Market and State LLC for a short-term rental in the building that's located at that address. The city commission denied that request during its February 23rd city commission meeting. Mr. Barrett filed an appeal with the circuit court, and through that process, the attorneys and the judge agreed to have this matter brought back to the city commission so that the city commission could review the evidence that was previously submitted and formulate and adopt specific findings and conclusions regarding the denial of the special use permit. And that is to complete the record so that the judge can review the appeal. The appeal has been stayed, meaning it's on hold until that has happened. There would be no new evidence taken, but consistent with the legal process in the zoning ordinance, it was noticed as a public hearing. The public can comment, but the city commission should not consider any new evidence. It's what was considered before it, when the February 23rd city commission meeting was held. So there was substantial information that was presented. I summarized that in the memo. But it was everything included in your packets in August and in February. It included meeting minutes from the planning commission and information submitted to them as well. So there is a resolution, and at the conclusion of the public hearing, the request is to have the city commission consider adopting the resolution, which lays out the background, and then it adopts the proposed findings of fact that are incorporated as part of the packet. If the findings of fact are compiled based on the complete record that was before the city commission. Belvin Gassel helped me compile that as well. We reviewed all the information and tried to summarize it in a way that to present to the city commission for consideration. It's meant to incorporate the city commission's findings as a whole. And if there is something that the city commission would like to add to it or modify, that can be done as well through this process. But it is a public hearing, so that is, it's basically to discuss those findings.
Thank you. So now we're going to go through the findings of fact and see if there's any questions or comments from the commission on each of those items. And if we have any changes that we want to discuss, that's open for discussion right now.
Yes, and in the findings of fact, I'll just kind of lay that out as well. There was just a background of the property itself as the application and the zoning board of appeals decision, the planning commission's review. And then the city commission's review as well. The proposed findings are out of the ordinance, the zoning ordinance. So all of those criteria that need to be considered are included in those standards. So that is what it's based on, and those are the highlighted, the dark highlighted print, starting on packet page 149, moving forward. And the proposed findings are listed below each of those items.
Any questions or comments from the commission?
No questions from me. This is very complete, right? Thank you. And I think it really lays out, the very specific reasons that this is not a good fit.
I would agree with that. What I remember and what I read through and how we deliberated last time, I agree with everything that's in here as is.
And this, my main concern is encapsulated in that, and obviously it's a summary of the other factors as well. So no real changes that I would make.
There's no further questions or comments. We can take public comment. Anyone who wants to speak on this item can come up to the podium, especially since this is a public hearing. We need you to state your name and address for the record, and comments should be directed to the chair. Just also be aware that there should be no new evidence considered in our decision this evening. We base it solely on what was discussed at the last meeting and in the findings of fact here. Are there any public comments? Coming up.
The typo.
A typo?
Yeah.
Do you know exactly where?
Yeah. So it's on page 151, I believe. Under zoning number 3, it says June 12, 2026, and I believe that to be 2025.
Where do we need name and address for that public comment? This is a public hearing, so things are a little bit more stricter with that.
Yes.
We do. Can you state your name and address,
Casey
please?
Renner, 1301 Lake Boulevard.
Thank you.
And thank you. You are correct. That is a typo. I'm sorry, I did not catch you.
Thank you for finding that. Any other public comment? All right.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Phil Pegg. I live at 912 State Street. Been a resident there for 28 years. And when I spoke back in February, we talked about the fact that this fight first started on behalf of our neighborhood to protect it back in 2006. There was no rules and regulations in place at that time, but there was a short-term rental across the street. They were quite disruptive. A lot of the time, and they were trying to buy the house 2 doors down from me at the same time. So they had one, they had others, they had 3 others in town, and they were trying to buy 2 in my neighborhood on my block back in 2006. So I came to the city council at that time to ask Frank Walsh and Frank Walsh was the mayor, and the city commissioners what our plan is to deal with short-term rentals, because one can become an issue, but 1 can become 3, 3 can become 10. Pretty soon, nobody wants to live in our neighborhood. That was a big issue then. It's still an issue where we've got a great nucleus of people that live in our neighborhood, year-round residents who support the community. They volunteer in the community. They work in the community. They've got kids that go to the school. Some do, but we've got some retired as well. But we do a lot with this community. It's not just 12 weeks a year. We support each other. We support the cause for what it is. And I think one of the biggest things I'll say is we don't want to become a Chickering Township or a New Buffalo or a South Haven. Whatever they have that's gotten away from them, that's the last thing we need. We really have a great place here, and I brought this up back in February. People don't come because of short-term rentals. They don't come to spend their money here because they got that. They come because of that little thing down below the hill called Lake Michigan and the community that we have. We've got great vineyards. We've got amazing golf courses. St. Joe's is a special place on the lake. They come for that. So.
Yep. Yeah. Any other public comment? Come on up.
Well, I've injured my knee.
Sure.
Hopefully I'm gonna get this lady and help weeks to help me get back on my feet. And Barn, 608 Market Street. I just want to say thank you, because I go back to that time too. When there were no regulations and I lived next door to the one at 603 State. And so thank you for taking all the time, all this effort, to look after this for our community, and that's what it is, a community, it's a special place. Community is very important. Where I was traveling with this spring, there were dangerous fires, and I got to witness, community in action. Community is important, we need to provide for community when things are good and when things are bad, and we can come together for tragedies, so thank you for all that you're doing.
Any other public comment? Okay, seeing no other public comment. Close public hearing. There it is. All right, we're gonna close the public hearing at 6:17 PM.
Be a motion to close.
I move to close the public hearing.
Support. Abby, call the roll?
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Olbrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
All right, now we can deliberate if there's any other questions, comments, or anything that the commission wants to change about the findings of fact. I think I already said I see nothing that I need to change other than the typo.
All right. In that case, I move to approve the resolution to adopt the findings of fact regarding special land use of application for short-term rental Market and State LLC at 520 State Street / 515 Market Street in St. Joseph, Michigan, as presented, with the typo that was pointed out on the date modified for its denial of the applicant's special land use application for 8 short-term rental dwelling units.
Second. Any more public comment on that one?
Probably.
Any further public comment on this matter? All right, we exhausted it. Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Olbrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla.
No.
All right, motion passes. Moving on to the next item, number 16, new special event application, lest we forget.
Lest we forget is requesting to do a public reading of the Declaration of Independence on Wednesday, July 8th in Whirlpool Centennial Park in front of the field of 250 flags. This event will coincide with hundreds of other events in cities nationwide to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the document's first public readings, which happened on July 8th, 1776. So they'll have some music as well, some patriotic music as well, but for the most part, the event shouldn't last more than a few minutes for the reading of the Declaration of Independence.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions from the commission?
Very nicely with the stair mural.
Yeah, sounds like a good event. What's the pleasure of the commission?
I move to approve the Lest We Forget special event America 250 Sharing the Spirit of America as presented and to direct staff to issue a special event permit. Support.
Any public comment on the issue? Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Bentley.
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla.
Yes.
Commissioner Olbrich.
Yes.
Thank you, Greg. Next item is the Global War on Terrorism Memorial.
sounds like we may need to incorporate Carl's request as part of this as well. So at the June 11th regularly scheduled Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting, the board received a presentation and request from Stephen Feniger to place a monument in Lake Bluff Park memorializing all the global wars on terrorism. As the city commission may recall, a moratorium was put in place in 1995 prohibiting placement of monuments in Lake Bluff Park. As a result, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board is requesting a subcommittee consisting of 3 Parks Board members and 2 city commissioners to be formed to review this request, very similar to what was done for the Martin Luther King Jr. Monument. The Parks Board members that have been appointed are Lars Petsky, Jane Sikora, and Sharon Schmidt to represent the Parks Board. If there is any additional questions, Stephen Feniger is here tonight if you have additional questions.
Thank you. And the task before us is to pick 2 commissioners to serve on this committee.
Correct.
Okay. Discussion? Any volunteers?
I'd like to be on
I will.
Okay. Any other, anyone else want to fight for those 2 positions?
No, I would definitely answer the call of the, Parks Board if they need a committee to help find a home for this, monument. But it sounds like we have significant interest, so I would.
Great. Okay, so we have 2 picked out.
Okay.
Any other questions for the applicant or anything like that? Okay.
Is there a scheduled meeting time and day?
Now, what we've done in the past is send out like a doodle poll and some dates and times and try to find something that works for the entire group and then get something scheduled.
Great. Thank you.
I think we need to vote.
What is the pleasure of the commission?
Well, I move to nominate Commissioners Sorolla and Bettany to the subcommittee to serve on the Global War on Terrorism Monument Subcommittee.
I'll support that. Any public comment? All right. Abby, call the roll.
Mayor Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Ulrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Bettany.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Greg. Staying put or you're out of here now?
Well, I'll be back.
All right. Upton Drive concept selection. Tim coming up.
Okay, so cities.
That's great. Yeah.
And then some content.
Oh, it doesn't look like that over there.
Okay, all right, so city staff is requesting approval of the type of non-motorized facility to install as part of the 2028 Upton Drive construction project. I do have paper copies that I can hand out for the commission.
Take that.
Be
nice.
Yeah.
Want to
We
live
have a good commission chambers. Really gives you a moment to appreciate that.
spare the webcam near the back of my head.
Okay, so you can see the project limits are on Upton Drive from Menominee Drive to the northern city limits. One of the challenges on this project is the right of way from Menominee Drive to Edgewater Dunes Parkway and the North Upton Drive intersection is only 50 feet wide. A typical right of way is 66 feet wide, so it does make the space constraints tighter and more difficult for the design. So this is a typical reconstruction project. The reason we need to do it is the road is in very bad shape. The police rating, the pavement surface evaluation they do is 2 out of 10. Basically, it is stale. We need to replace the storm sewer and improve the drainage. There is new storm installed in 2024 up to the Menominee Drive intersection. We'll connect to that. The north end of this project 2 flows a different direction, and we'll be working on that as well. While we have the road, sorry. While we have the road hooked up, we will replace the water main. We'll replace the sanitary sewer services and sanitary manholes. We actually had to put in cured in place pipe a couple of years back for the main because it was failing. We actually had a couple of big holes under the road. That couldn't wait. That is a structural pipe though, so we will be able to utilize that as part of this project. We will make ADA improvements, fix the ramps, and we'll do on-street parking. We'll talk about that more a little later. And of course, why we're here is we need to install non-motorized facilities And we need a decision because AEP is replacing the transmission lines out there. So we need to know what the concept is so we can tell them the location of their poles. Because we will be changing the road section as part of it. Okay. So there's two reasons why we're recommending the installation of non-motorized facilities. First of all, it's in the master plan. And the 2016 master plan, basically a high priority was placed on better serving our pedestrians and bicycles, making it safer for them. And Upton Drive, this section is designated for a crosstown bike route. The second reason, for the next slide, is money. Basically, we have SDBG funding, a surface transportation block grant funding in the amount of $932,000. That does come with strings attached. We have to meet the complete streets policy or the Twin Cats, the Twin Cities Area Transportation Study, which is our municipal planning organization to basically take the money away if we don't do that. So the next slide, I just have a couple quick examples of non-motorized paths in the city. In 2018, the non-motorized path along Dickinson Park there that extends out to Lakeshore Drive was the first project we did after the master plan was passed. So we have the Howard Family Trail and the Upton Arboretum Trail through there. Next slide, please. And then Howard Family Trail, again, I just wanted to show we going through a populated area. There are several more, but bring it to the present. And in 2024, we installed a path down the east side on Upton Drive as part of that. Next slide, please. We have installed bike lanes too. This is an example on Lake Boulevard, done as part of the 2006 reconstruction project there. Next slide. So we offered two concepts to start out with. Concept 1 and concept 2 did not have any on-street parking. So concept 1 was 12-foot lanes, travel lanes with a 10-foot wide, non-motorized path on the east side of the road. Concept 2, you don't see it, we'll see it in the next slide. It has 2 5-foot wide bike lanes rather than the 10-foot wide non-motorized path. One of the inputs that we got from the residents was they realized that the right-of-way was larger out there and said, hey, can you taper the road and make it work? And we looked at it, and sure enough, we could. So we offered concept 3 right away, which that's the lower picture there. We're north of Edgewater Dunes Parkway. We taper the road slightly to the west. We create on-street parking along the east side of the road. And then what I want to show you on the far left is that 50-foot wide section between Mommy Drive and Edgewater Dunes Parkway. Really, it doesn't even allow us to put in on-street parking by today's design standards. It's just too tight. So, next slide, please. And this just shows the 5-foot wide, again, 2 5-foot wide bicycle paths on each side, or bike lanes rather, on each side of the road for concept 2 and concept 4. Okay. Next slide. So we put together a list of pros and cons for the different options here or concepts, and I'm just going to concentrate on 3 and 4 because most of the people that basically voted wanted on-street parking. So as far as non-motorized paths go, they're more family friendly. It also matches the existing non-motorized facilities on each end of the project. The narrow roadway, and this provides the narrowest roadway, will help us reduce speed. It does mitigate the loss of parking, obviously. The tapered alignment also helps us to reduce speed. We had to do that on Langley for a different reason in 2021, and we found that that's really helped us to reduce speed. Some of the negatives to it, if you will, there is less green space when you have the parking, and this could lead to more enforcement workload if there's motorized use on the path. There has been a concern about golf carts being used up there. And so I think we can do 2 things for that, increase enforcement, but we also can place bollards or steel posts at strategic locations to make it more difficult to drive the golf carts on the paths. Moving on to the positives for the bike lanes. It is preferred by commuters. So if you're a serious cyclist, you want to get on the road and go, you're comfortable in those bike lanes. The other 2 advantages are the same as what concept 3 is. Same thing down as far as the negatives go, there's less green space. In this case, actually, though, increasing the roadway width a bit to create those bike lanes on the street, which in turn will increase speeds slightly because the road is wider, people are more comfortable driving faster. This, another negative, of course, it doesn't match the adjacent non-motorized paths on each end. Inexperienced cyclists will have to share the 5-foot wide narrow sidewalks in this case. And also the car doors will open into, when you're going northbound, into that bike lane. So one thing I want to drop back to is by not matching the bike lanes on both sides, if you're going southbound on that westerly lane, when you get to Mominy, you actually have to cross diagonally through the intersection to get back onto the non-motorized path that's installed there. So next slide, please. So we've held 2 public input sessions or open houses. The first was in November of 2025, had 21 attendees there. The second was in June. Just last Tuesday, we had 20 people sign into that one. There was a large gap between the first and second one. There's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, we had a lot of good input, a lot of good questions, and we wanted to gather more detailed information. Am I going to lose speed, lose trees, that sort of thing. So we knew AEP was doing work out there. We asked them for their survey. That ended up being much more of a drawn out process than we had planned on. We're just trying to be good stewards of rates and taxpayer dollars by doing that. So when we finally got it, we were able to use it, but we had to fill in some gaps. So that took a little bit more time. So, but by any means, we're here where we are today. We had good participation from the public both times. Some of the concerns raised were tree removals and landscaping impacts. And what we determined is we may need to lose a couple trees on the north end of the project. However, they're pretty small in size, and I think we'll be able to replace those. And there's a couple properties that have, it's nice landscaping, but it's right along the curb line. And when we tear up a road, that just is gonna go no matter what. Another thing we were asked about is why don't you underground the electric? You know, it's gonna look a lot better. So we contacted AEP. I suspected I knew the answer, but the number was even bigger than what I thought it was gonna be. Basically, they said on a project of similar magnitude down in Indiana, their estimate was $3.7 million. This project's about a $4 million project, so it doubles the cost of it. We don't have money in our budget to do it. I doubt highly the property owners would want to form a special assessment district to make up that difference. So I think that's probably gone. We can talk about it more in the design phase, but I just don't see that being a possibility. We've already talked about how, you know, some of the suggestions we considered that we tapered the road north of Edgewater Kings Parkway. Talked about the golf carts. Another emerging topic is e-bikes. E-bikes are becoming a problem. This is not just in St. Joe, it's statewide, probably nationwide. And Steve Newbecker, the public safety director, Steve Newbecker, and City Attorney Schmidt are working on an ordinance. So I don't really see that, but that has a bearing on which one we select. We're going to address it no matter what. So here are the vote tallies. Basically, my overall comment on this was that they were inconclusive. It was pretty well split. For the first public input process, you can see that the non-motorized path has 5, bike lanes 5. The reason you only have one vote for the non-motorized and parking in that is we offered that late in the game. So people voted for what they did before they knew that was available. We do a process where at our open house, we use red and green stickers for people to tell us what they like and what they dislike. Again, you could see that was pretty well split. I will say there's a math error. That number of attendees at 15 should have been 21. When I was working on this at 11 o'clock on Wednesday night, it wasn't on my top end. But anyway, so those weren't included in the final tallies that you'll see at the bottom. In the second input process, we went out again, and one thing we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that people had the opportunity to look at a bike lane and parking too, to see how that would land. And you can see that it was 13 for the non-motorized path and parking and 12 for the bike lanes and parking. Again, the neighborhood's really split on that. If I combine those two down at the very bottom, you see that it gives a little bit more of a nudge to the non-motorized path. On the parking side, you can see there were over double the votes for that. So that was pretty easy to say we're going to install parking. There were people that changed their minds along the way. They weren't fickle, that's because we changed concepts on them. And, so. That's right. So the summary recommendation, again, the majority of, those who provided input favored added parking, so we're gonna do that. The residents fronting on the impacted section of Upton Drive desired bike lane, so that's on the east side of Upton Drive, where it's right in front of their home. About, I believe it was 4 of the 6 properties wanted the bike lanes. I will say the public open house attendees really made a concerted effort to understand what the differences were, really study the plans, a lot of good questions. We also really appreciate the fact that they communicated with us, really professionally and respectfully. We haven't had that sometimes when we go through this process, and that was kind of nice. I will say when people made up their mind, they made up their mind. It was a pretty strong opinion once they got there. Again, because there was no clear preference for the non-motorized path versus the bike lanes, we're making our recommendation really more on the technical aspects of it. We can make either one work, but the non-motorized path is better in our opinion because it's safer. It's consistent with the existing paths on either end. The narrow roadway width will help slow speeds. So, are there any questions?
Timmy mentioned we might lose a few trees if we go to the path versus the bike lane. Trees that we don't lose, how much are we going to run into roots from trees that are going to be saved? And I asked this question largely because we're going to spend $250,000 this summer to replace sidewalks. That's just in one quadrant, I believe, or 1/3 of the city. And now we're adding a lot more, and obviously concrete and tree roots don't get along. Just thinking about what you would forecast there if we went that other route.
Most of the trees are outside of the right of way here. And I guess the answer is I don't think it's gonna make much difference from what we have today out there, because the sidewalk is located right on the property line. So relative to where the current sidewalk is, it will essentially stay the same. With the non-motorized path, it's just gonna push towards the roadway.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions?
I have one. I'm not sure if you answered this. So where the parking lot, I see there's 2 sizes of parking. It looks like some are shorter and more narrow than the other. Is that handicap or is that?
There are ADA spaces shown in the concept. Tim, I believe there's 26 spaces that we think we can get in there. They actually do, once you get above 25, it bumps the requirement for a second. It's not necessarily gonna be in that location that was just a house.
So for me, concepts 1 and 2 are pretty easy to just be out, they don't include any of the on-street parking, and I think the general consensus from most, has been a desire for preserving at least some on-street parking, and given, what we can, right? We have some roads that are just way too narrow that they just would not meet the standard requirements that we would need to have parking on even one flat. But I think, for me, preserving what parking we can, is more in alignment with what some of the folks that live there have shared with me, and I think some of the vibes we got in the survey data there. Then the big question then becomes, do we do bike lanes or the non-motorized path, right? For me, I think I'm leaning towards the non-motorized path, out of the aspects of consistency with, the surrounding areas. I don't know, which way are you guys leaning on that?
I'm actually leaning towards the bike lane, only because it's gonna get poured the same time, or the asphalt's gonna go down the same time the road goes down. It's not a separate, the motorized path would be concrete.
Non-motorized path.
Non-motorized path, yeah. Yeah, and I just think that's it's a whole another project unto itself. The concrete seems to be more expensive to replace than the asphalt, and the paving could be done all at one time. It seemed to be more cost efficient. I would like to see it more consistent from the north and south ends where it ties into a non-motorized path, but I think in this case, I'm not sure that's enough to incur the extra expense.
There's one thing or two things to take care of. It's a fair argument.
When they pave the concrete, they pretty much do it, it's right down the road. Sometimes they actually use a machine to just pave it, just like an asphalt road.
Right, I've seen that.
It varies like now, with the petroleum prices are, because asphalt cement's a byproduct of that
Right.
process. It ends up, sometimes it can actually be more competitive, but generally speaking, concrete is a little more expensive. I will say longevity wise, because you don't have you're right about tree roots, but there actually aren't that many trees along here that I think would impact it. Getting the vehicular traffic off of it, actually, they last pretty well, so. You have full information to make a decision.
Yeah.
For me, I bike pretty often, and if I were to just vote on what I would like, I'd prefer a bike lane as well, because I don't love using a non-motorized path. There's a lot of other people, walkers, kids, and I'd rather just be able to go fast. But then I asked the question to Tim, what makes the most sense for the most people? And when he said it's this non-motorized path, that was what I was leaning towards, just because I'm not voting what I want necessarily, but for the greater good, that's gonna benefit our community the most. That's what I would lean towards.
Yeah, and I think I'm glad you brought that up, Brooke. One of the things that I'm concerned with, we talked about golf carts, but it's the motorized or the electric bikes and the skateboards and the scooters. The scooters are incredible. They're just go incredibly fast. And I think when you start mixing walkers, bikers, and those paces on even a 10-foot wide path, I just think it's a recipe for disaster. And if we do pinch down to a bike lane here, at least it's an opportunity to separate and detour the motorized scooters. And again, that's the one I see the most at my house.
On the sidewalk?
It's on the sidewalk at 25 miles per hour.
Yeah, it definitely is a concern.
Yeah.
And it's something that we're gonna need to address.
Yeah.
I went out this weekend, I'm a cyclist, so I took my bike and I discovered there's a ton of walkers, so it'd be nice to separate them, because you really have like four, walkers are going but both ways, they have their dog, and if as a biker, I can bike pretty fast.
Right.
Last thing I wanna do is for a dog or a kid. I would separate them. Cause it also, you go out towards the golf course, it's a nice path you go and it hooks up to the new path. Very nicely.
When you say you would separate them, what do you mean by that?
I would have a bike lane and sidewalk.
I think that's concept 4, right?
Mhm.
That's what I would do as well. I think for all the reasons that have been stated, that one just makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Objection to me. I'm all for one thing to take care of instead of two. I can be convinced either way.
Well, we get a motion?
I move to approve the non-motorized path option with parking along the east side of Upton Drive, north of Edgewater Dunes Parkway for the 2028 Upton Drive reconstruction project, consistent with concept 4, posted on the city website.
That would not have the non-motorized path though.
That would be the 2 bike lanes, yes.
So the motion needs to be changed.
Staff recommended that motion,
Right.
city commission's the decision maker.
So we would just need to take out the non-motorized path.
There's gonna be a sidewalk, right? It's just bike lane.
That's a,
There will be 5 foot wide. I'm gonna correct that. It's so tight in that one section. I'm not sure if we're gonna have a 7 foot wide sidewalk or a 5 foot wide sidewalk. If we have to put the sidewalk directly to the back of the curb, we have to go 7 feet. If we don't have enough space to get about 3 feet lower and then a 5 foot sidewalk, it is literally that tight. We're talking about, I'm sorry, I'm missing something.
I was just gonna say, Michael, I think you could just
take out.
do a motion to approve the option with parking and then plug in.
I move to approve the option with parking along the east side of Upton Drive, north of Edgewater Dunes Parkway for the 2028 Upton Drive reconstruction project, consistent with concept 4.
That sound good?
Support.
Yeah. Okay. How about any public comment on the matter? Come on up.
Came to the wrong meeting. This time it's Carl Meyer with Michiana Land Services. We did the acquisition, everything north of town up through Whirlpool for non-motorized path. They didn't want anything. It goes all the way north of town and then north of Whirlpool, if that's east, all non-motorized, just to let you know, because of those reasons. Two, in reference to AEP, have you looked, the picture I see is distribution and transmission. Have you looked at both easements, type of easements, are blanket easements, defined easements, the right to relocate, or where does that stand?
AEP has to either locate their facilities within the right of way or get easements granted from the property.
So they don't have private easements right now?
My understanding, I will tell you that the city granted AEP an easement. We own a small chunk of land at the northeasterly corner of Momini and Upton. And we did grant them an easement. However, my understanding is not all residents granted them that easement. So they have to keep their poles.
Right away.
Right.
Right.
So we have to work that into all those other dimensions with separation that we need to have.
But did you look at both transmission easements and distribution?
Well,
Sometimes they get both, even at the same location.
but they're gonna be on the same pole. That's what you're asking?
No, that doesn't mean, you have separate easements, one for distribution, could be a defined easement area, transmission, a lot larger. Completely different, so there could be two easements in that exact location, and that's what I'm saying, you need to take a look at both distribution and transmission easements.
And if you could address your questions, comments to
Oh,
the
I'm
commission, that's all right.
I'm
And
sorry,
then we can see if we need some answers, because we could do this all night long. But please continue. You have more.
that's my concern,
Okay.
I think you need to take a look at both types of easements, if they're defined or blanket. The right to relocate, at whose cost, if it's in road right of way, that's at their cost, not the city's cost to relocate.
Mhm.
So that could save you some.
Thank you.
Copy.
Can I ask you something too? You say the non-motorized path, the one that goes up M63 from
That's
St.
correct.
Joe all the way,
That's
and you were with who? Who did that?
Michiana Land Services. We did the acquisitions for the county.
Thank you. Thank you. Other public comment? Come on up.
I don't know if I have to identify myself. David
Please.
Dowdy, 319 Wingwood in St. Joe. And I generally favor bike lanes simply because anybody going over 10 mile an hour, which most people want to grown-ups, let's put it that way. They get beyond, I don't know, junior high somewhere, they start going a little bit faster. And then the scooters, the e-bikes, keeping them separate from the pedestrians. It's a good thing. And I don't know if there's been much consideration about putting two lanes or two bike lanes, if you will, on one side of the street to allow the parking on the other. Was that a proposal also? Or not?
There was not. Tim, do you want to answer it? No. You want us to answer that?
Can you answer it?
Tim, do you want to?
Do you know?
Really, I mean, if you have a two-way bike lane or bike path, you need separation from the travel lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my concern.
There's just not enough room.
And
for
then
that.
the other concerns, if you put, I still favor lanes, like on one side you would eliminate parking. I think that was concept 3. Correct? Rather than the concrete path.
While you're talking about that, another thing in this case is we're actually using the 1.5 gutter as part of the bike lane. So it's 3.5 feet of pavement and a 1.5 feet gutter. In fact, we have to ask for design acceptance for that. Can you do it? It's later now. That's okay. Okay. But when you basically, that's how I'm trying to do it. To try to do the two on the same side.
In all honesty, I think 3 speed is not for most bicyclists, and on the, I'm not opposed to either one, I think they're both. I am a little concerned. I'd like to keep the pedestrians separated as much from the bikers, scooters, and everybody else that's going over 10 miles. Only concern with the bike lanes is that the parking on one side, as someone who has been to it, you know, there's that risk over there.
Right.
But it just speeds up people, and then the kids and stuff like that, they're going to pedestrians. There's my comment.
Thank you. Yeah. Things to consider. Other public comment coming up?
There's Michael B on 603 Summer Ridge Parkway, so right adjacent to the property, but not, it's not a sidewalk that will be in front of my house, but I've been following the project. A couple things I heard tonight just make me pause and wonder if you're really looking at the bigger piece here as it relates to cycling and going fast. That's not really a stretch of road that connects anything for cyclists. They're not likely to be on that road. And if you put a path there, it's really just for those two long blocks. You know, as we said before, at either end, there isn't a bike lane. So I really wonder, is this going to be a long-term cycling solution? When I had young kids at home, I didn't want them cycling in a bike lane anyway, wanted them on the sidewalk. The other concern I heard with an observation was that this could separate the e-bikes and e-scooters, which are undoubtedly the future of a lot of transportation solutions here. And I'm curious, are they allowed in bike lanes? Is this going to be a motorized bike lane? And so I don't know if that's being considered today. Is this we're saying, well, this by doing it this way, we're going to have the kids on scooters and e-bikes in the bike lane. And I'm not sure if that fits this grant that says you have to have non-motorized path, and the bike lane solves that to get the money. But then are we going to allow motorized vehicles in the bike lanes? So that seems to be a bit of a misconnect on the rationale for putting it there. Personally, I want traffic calming on that stretch, and I think that a narrower road is the best answer. So I voiced my opinion to not have the bike lanes. That was my personal point of view. Thanks.
Yeah.
Tim, could you clarify? Because I think it's a great question asked about the bike lanes and who's permitted to be in it.
You're gonna be really quick. No. We're still trying to figure out where, you know, what the appropriate place is. I think we looked at some other examples and I think they can be on both. Where we land on this and, you know, as time goes on, where it lands, I can't tell you. I don't know unless Lori, Steve, or Greg Rouse forwarded an article today, because he's on a couple state boards where they're discussing this. So.
I think what I'll say is that I certainly can't answer the question on the grant, which I think Michael poses a great question. I don't know if Tim knows that off the top of his head or if he needs to go back and take a look. As far as a policy, I see you. As far as a policy for scooters and e-bikes, we are actively working on it, and it sort of predates or separately dates this discussion. We see that there is a lot of that happening in the city, in the downtown, elsewhere. We are on many listservs and other things with other communities, and they are seeing it this summer now more than ever. And so we are working to adopt something, but that is something that we will bring here and we'll shape together. So there is no decision yet.
I found it really ironic because after I was working on the presentation Wednesday night, I had it on 11:15 and an e-bike was in front of me on Main Street. And there's 3 classes and it had to be a class 3 because he was doing 28, which is a top speed that they could go, because I just followed them. So.
Yeah, given what Emily said, how time sensitive is the decision tonight for this? I mean, should we have the policy before we make a final decision to understand how the flow is going to be down there?
AEP really needed this answer back in November, December timeframe. Their project is moving faster than ours. So it is fairly, I mean, I wouldn't want to put this off more than a week, or I'm sorry, like till the next commission meeting, and I don't know that we're gonna have those answers by then.
What about, so I go to these meetings that are countywide with all the different leaders and everyone's talking about this right now. Lincoln Township just approved a policy and other people were asking for it. Not to say that we need to adopt their exact one, but if there's other people who already have this kind of thing rolling, maybe we could put it off and just see what more answers or guidance we can get on that policy before deciding on this one, because I'm starting to rethink some of my stuff now
Yeah.
too.
I would suggest that we could do some digging for July 13th. Lori, shake or nod your head if you're concerned. And probably not bring a policy, but bring maybe some concepts, right? We're seeing the trend moving in this direction, or we have a decision point between this and that, and staff might recommend this or the other thing to shape it a little bit.
Right.
Even if we haven't formally adopted it, that might help to say we're moving in that direction, and here's what we do on the non-motorized path as a result. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, I think I think
Yeah.
it's smart. I think you should push, and not to delay, but I think we should push it as far as we can to have as much information as we can to make a good decision. And, Michael does raise a great point. It is kind of the future, but it's without a policy. And I'm glad to hear we're working on a policy
Yeah.
because I'm pretty far out of the city, but a mile from the boulevard. But the amount of traffic that I see on scooters, even motorized skateboards and e-bikes, and as narrow as that sidewalk is and the speeds that they're going, and some of them are hidden because there are, trees or bushes that come out, encroach on driveways, and you come out, boom, there's someone there going 20, 25 miles per hour. It's a challenge, and it's really an accident waiting to happen. And I'm glad we have our sleeves rolled up and digging into it. And I'd like to put this off as long as we can so we can make a good decision for this particular stretch of road.
Independent of this stretch of road or not, the policy, we have to develop that either way on how to handle those, and so kind of coming back to this, this particular stretch, I mean, I was initially, for the non-motorized, and I'm willing to sway and compromise, but I'm really not hearing enough of the reasons to really make that compromise on the bike lanes, outside of, one thing versus two things to take care of, but, we haven't advanced and sounds like you guys want to wait anyways. Lori, would I be able to rescind my motion? Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I think after talking tonight, there's a big difference between biking on M63 and Upton Drive. It's just two completely different
Right.
situations. So to try and compare the two, it's just impossible.
Agreed.
And I'm a different biker than a 5-year-old who's going 5 miles per hour to my 30 miles per hour. And so it's just, you can't make a decision based on that. So I'm glad we're gonna sit and think about this some more. Do we just need a motion?
Well, I think,
Go ahead.
and we can wait, and the policy again, needs to happen, on e-bikes and scooters and all that stuff is independent of what we decide on this stretch of road. We still have to make a decision on this stretch of road. And so, I mean, I think it's really as simple as bike lanes or non-motorized path. Yeah, I'm leaning back to where I was at the beginning of this meeting, on the non-motorized path. We have to develop policy regardless. So I don't know what advantage I gain or what changes in 2 weeks from now on this. So I'm fine. I would move forward with a non-motorized path tonight if whatever your feelings are. If you guys want to wait, can we
Yeah.
do?
Based on what I know today, I'm leaning more towards the bike lane. So that's where I'm at.
Thoughts?
Never heard to do research. Michael, are you rescinding the motion?
Oh, yeah, I thought I already did that.
Support it.
I don't think it was supported. I just checked with
Yeah,
Andy.
you would have to support it, Mike.
I support the rescinding of
Yes.
the motion.
All right.
Then do we just need a motion to table or just direction is okay at this point?
I think direct.
Just direct.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then we shall table that for this evening. And I don't think I exhausted other public comment. So if there is other public comment, I'd gladly have you come up. Okay, excellent. Consider the motion table. All right, on to item number 19, HVAC contract. 19. Say that.
All right, in preparation for the new budget year, beginning of July 1, city staff prepared a request for proposals, citywide heating, ventilation, and air conditioning or HVAC. It's a preventative maintenance program. We put together an extensive list of specs for city facilities. This should be addressed as part of the cooling season and heating season startup. We issued an RFP in April, sent to several HVAC contractors. We did receive 4 responses back to the RFP from Allied Mechanical, RW Lapine, Vivid Industry, and First Mechanical. Part of the process, city staff contacted each of the bidders to make sure everyone understood the RFP and bid on it accordingly. This was done because there was a wide range of pricing submitted by the bidders. The result of these phone calls did reveal misunderstanding amongst the bidders, primarily surrounding the number of filter changes requested. The confusion was due to some vendors' interpretation of the RFP asking for 2 filter changes per year, when in reality we were asking for 4 per year. So we asked each vendor to provide pricing for 2 filter changes per year and 4 changes per year, and that information is provided as part of the packet. The end result maintained RW Lapine as the low bidder at $51,240 for a 3-year contract for $17,080 per year. Allied Mechanical became the second low bidder as a result of this at $71,896 for a 3-year contract. So after thorough review, staff is recommending to accept the proposal from RW Lapine in the amount of $17,080 in 2026, same amount for 2027 and 2028. We have worked with RW Lapine previously on some HVAC projects and some small plumbing projects. I've been happy with the work they've done. Any questions?
Greg, can you give me an idea how many mechanical units are involved here for filter changes? I know we have a lot of facilities.
There, I believe as part of the packet, there's a list. A lot, know that. I don't have the exact number, but it's pretty lengthy.
And I guess my question as I read through this was, we've got to have some kind of a staff maintenance person, either that covers some of these buildings, all these buildings, one at each building. I'm not sure what that is. But is that something that could be part of their duty to do filter changes, or are they more complex than what I'm familiar with?
Could we do the filter change? In some of it, I think, yes, we could do some of the filter changes, but the vendor or contractor would still have to come and provide the maintenance checkup. And so while they're there, they can just swap it out. So I think savings is probably minimal because we're still going to buy the filter.
Right.
It might be a slight savings in time, very little, because they're coming anyways to service that in a minute.
Yeah. And are they servicing it? Is it just at the season change? Because that's kind of what I understood for the first time. Because the difference between 2 filter changes and 4 filter changes is $11,000.
They are servicing, yeah. So the big service happens at the seasonal cooling and heating season. There's the odd ones out. So like the ice arena is, there's a lot of servicing that happens at one time there because you've got the cooling system of the ice arena. You've got the boiler system that's part of the building, plus HVAC. So there's some outliers there to some of that. But I think in between, I think a lot of that is filter changes.
Okay. I guess I would ask, I'm prepared to vote on this, but I guess I would ask, is it possible for next year to do an analysis of how we might change our bid? Where they come out and certainly do the maintenance and the overview at season change, but maybe in the interim, we do some filter change our own, and maybe we can get this down, $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 a year. Can we look at it?
I mean, we have a facilities manager. He's just a team of one.
Yeah.
So it is a lot to ask. He is extremely busy. If you sit around him for very long, you'll realize how often his phone rings, and it's absurd.
Okay.
So he is very busy. Could we do some of it? Yes, I think it might be asking a lot of him to take it on and something.
The other factor, every task you reassign to, our staff capacity takes time away that they're could be doing to their other current existing duties.
Correct.
I'll just take this opportunity to give, a nice shout out to our public works crew that does a lot, but the reality is we already have them doing a lot. And I see areas where there's times that I think to myself, man, we could use a bigger public works team. And so while I'm all about, trying to find, some savings and stuff, this particular case, I don't think it does the trick with our current staffing, sizes to in-house this, especially given the fact that we already have people coming out to do some maintenance. It makes a lot of sense to me to have them do the filters too, but yeah. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, and just to, I guess, respond to that, my thought process is I just changed furnace filters into 3 furnaces in my home, and it took me about 90 seconds. So
I did the same this weekend myself. But some of these commercial ones, it's not, like in my home, it's pulled out.
Yeah, yeah.
fitted in. These commercial ones I know aren't as simple as that, but yeah.
okay.
Can you just remind me, Greg, is this a 1-year contract with 2 options to renew? Or is it a 3-year contract?
The 3-year contract.
Can we draft it as a 1-year with options to renew so that we can look at what Mike's talking about in a year, or is this a done deal for 3 years? So I just want to manage expectations
It was
accordingly.
bid out as a 3-year, and sometimes that impacts what their prices are, so I don't know, there'd have to be conversation
Yeah,
with the bidder about that.
Okay.
Taxes are go up.
so I mean, what I was gonna argue is, as Greg said, our facilities manager recently retired and we have someone new who is fabulous, not new to Public Works, but new in this role. I think that as we near the 12-month mark on this contract, he'll have sort of his legs under him and will be in better positioned to determine what he can and can't do. I think it's a matter of whether we have that flexibility within the contract.
Yeah, I would be prepared to approve it for the 3-year, but I would just encourage us to look at next time this comes up, and not
Yep.
just this, other things. Where we, do a real study and say, does it make sense for us to staff a second maintenance person? When we look across all the things that we're contracting out, and it's a lot. We have to look at what's most efficient for the city and how we can save a little bit of money. So I guess, again, there's a pretty big difference in price here between, Lapine and the others. I fully understand there are probably some pieces of equipment that are a lot more difficult than what we face at home. But I just think, maybe over the course of 3 years, we can do a good analysis of that. Next time this comes up to bid, we can have, maybe a better understanding of how we might rephrase the bid package.
Lapine's price is great. I am a little concerned they're low. Allied Mechanical is our current vendor, and they had to adjust because they realized they had underbid it the last time. There was more involved than we had anticipated, so they'll honor their price, but I am a little concerned they are on the low side when you look at the other bids, but.
Yeah, they're pretty close on the 2 filter changes. When you go to the 4 is where the big difference is.
Okay, any other questions?
I move to accept the proposal from R.W. Lapine of St. Joseph to provide an HVAC preventative maintenance program for 3 years at a cost of $17,080 in 2026, $17,080 in 2027, and $17,080 in 2028, and authorize the city manager to execute the appropriate documents.
I'll support. Any public comment on the matter? Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Overy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Thank you. Next item, number 20, fiscal year 26 and 27 budget amendment.
We weren't sure if you'd want to see the packet or on the screen. What's your program?
You can put it on the screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Emily's pointing that out, the purpose of today is to bring the budget into more considered standing for expenses go. We want to make sure that we have more budget than we do expense. So we're always gonna budget a little higher than we actually think the expenses are coming in under.
Better or worse?
I don't know.
Worse.
So as we go through these, you're gonna see a lot of decreases. And I don't think we necessarily want to go over those unless you really want me to. I'm more worried about the increases. One of the decreases I do want to mention though is the charges for service line in the general fund. It's right, they can go down, it's always right there in the middle of Laura's section of the screen. That's reducing because of the pay parking. The other revenue item I want to touch on is go down a little bit, Emily, in the bottom of the general fund transfers in. Remember, for the two public safety funds we're gonna close out this year, we were gonna use that expense to buy the black cameras. Those haven't come in yet, so rather than wait another fiscal for these two funds to still exist with barely any use, I'm proposing to transfer those little bit of money back into the general fund. And we'll purchase those out of the general fund, so that's a change for the revenue here. Okay, so let's go down to the city manager budget. It's an increase of $39,800. The first line here is personnel. The city manager performance pay was not included in the amended budget, so we need to increase to cover that. And then the contractual services, remember CBIZ was the IT audit, and that was authorized last year. We have to move that forward to this year because the service wasn't completed until this year. So I need to increase the budget to cover that. We also have a Plan Moran increase for $7,500. This is for help with the development agreement, financial analysis. And then I'm decreasing miscellaneous line by $4,000. All that together is an increase to $36,600. The next increase I want to talk about is the city clerk. We had an increase for computer technical support. This is the old vendor. The new vendor will be housed in one place and cover the full year. What's that?
We're up to the budget.
Yeah. The next line is a decrease because remember we authorized the new vendor, we increased the purchasing budget, but that hasn't materialized, so I'm removing a large portion of that. The other increase I want to talk about is the treasurer budget. We had a couple things going on here. The first one is the personnel for the year-end accrual and the benefits for my compensation increase at the beginning of the year that was not included in the budget. We had an increase the postage line. Postage line throughout the city was trending super high, so I'm giving it just a touch higher. Remember, we're billing our own taxes first time this year, so I want to have just a little bit of cover for that. I'm decreasing a line there. Okay, the miscellaneous increase for $34,500. That's the email I sent about the pension transaction I had to make. So this is where that's hitting the budget. And then the next one is the refunds and rebates. And this used to be housed separately in its own budget. And we've never been this high. And what this is, when Shelley buys our delinquent taxes and the value changes, at some point, somebody, either her or us, owes someone else money. And in this case, this is cash we're giving back to the county, but this is a good thing overall for the city. A value was adjusted through board review down to the correct value. When that happens, we have to pay Shelley back that money, and that's where this value is hitting the budget. And you'll see that each millage will have this specific line. The general fund is hitting in my budget there. The next increase is down near the bottom of this page for the city attorney. This is the payroll accrual and attorney compensation change made beginning through the middle of the year.
There's an increase in buildings and grounds.
Yeah, but an overall decrease.
Got it, okay.
The next one I want to point out is electricity for the street lighting. That's on the second page down near the bottom, it's 448. You had to increase the budget, or I'm asking for an increase the budget of $7,500. Then on the next page, we have the ambulance, which we've been talking about. This is just $1,200, and this is because of when they adopted the new agreement. The portion that was retroactive, we didn't account for, so we're $1,200 short.
And that was based on the June first start rather than the July one start.
Right. The next one is a combo of when we consolidated the two, community development, budgets, 721 and 728. We had to increase 728 because 721 was decreased, and that's actually a net gain for the general fund too. Then we're gonna move down to the parks and recreation increase. This is an increase in personnel of 81,200 for the union contract. It was not accounted for in the amended budget. The operating supplies needs to be increased, and then the vehicle and equipment use, and you'll see this many places in the city. The vehicle and equipment use of the Act 51 cost allocation budget, and that comes from the Act 51 table. That's when we use equipment, there's expense cost accounting on our side and helps fund 661 fund. And then the last one I want to talk about is a decrease for transfers out, and that is because of the parking revenue is supposed to be funneled to the 401 fund, and since it didn't come in, I have to lower the transfer out. All those crushed together, we're increasing the fund balance, $572,500, which is about double what the amended budget was. Overall, fiscal year wide, the general fund had an increase. Does anyone have any questions on this?
No.
Okay, moving on. The next one I want to talk about is the street fund, 478 is at the top and probably the next page. We're right there. Winter maintenance. Blew the budget this year, both funds. We had a bad winter. And had to increase the budget. Yeah, had to increase the budget. You'll see that both places. And then real quick, the only other one I want to mention here for the 202 fund is we're doing really well. The ended fund balance is projected to be just over $3 million. Right down a little bit lower, right there, $3 million for the amended budget, or the fund balance. Okay, now moving on to the 203 fund. This is remember the two flavors of Act 51. This is the local side. Oh, that's a bad label. Should say local fund. Yeah, we're increasing the transfer in $472,900. This is two things are happening here. I'm matching the actual expenses for the projects to the transfer in, and I'm adding another $300,000 in case we need it to close the year. I don't think we're gonna need that, but I'm just adding it for extra buffer. The next page has another winter maintenance. And the local side is more expensive than the major side, even though we get paid less for locals than the majors. And then the ending for 203 is about $1.5 million. Any questions on that one? Okay. The 204 fund, nothing really to talk about except I'm matching actuals with the transfers. So as the 202 and 203 fund projects of expense, 204 is going to compensate those two funds. So I'm just adjusting to match those. And that's what I mentioned. We're going to have about $5.7 million at the end of the year in 204. So it's really good. The next one I mentioned is the 209 fund, the cemetery fund. We're asking to increase the cemetery operations. This is for personnel related to the compensation from the union contract plus the benefits. And the vehicle equipment use, the same Act 51 cost allocation. And the 209 fund is the one we talked about when we were talking budget. This is one that's doing fine, but we need to start watching the expense moving forward. So I'm projecting a net change in fund balance of $9,400, ending balance of 327, which is really, we're safe, perfectly fine. Just need to start watching that going forward. Okay, let's talk about the rubbish fund. The Public Works Department increase, this is remember when we're talking budget, we started splitting because we can now in our new system, some expense for Public Works personnel. One of those places we're going to spread that to is the 226 fund, the rubbish fund. So we did an increase for that. The sanitation solid waste, we have an increase for personnel. This is from the union contract. I have a decrease there for operating supplies. Contractual service increase. What I'm asking for extra room here because I want to start accruing the July invoices back because they're actually for June. I'm gonna accrue those back to June. I don't have the budget there. It's not a cash transaction. It's just gonna be accrual expense from the current next year to this current year. And then we're hit with the vehicle equipment users, the active to unpaid again. And then the ending fund balance is, if you go back up to such everything, 771. We're in great shape here again. And remember, this is the millage fund. And next year, we're gonna have a full load of the 425 properties. I'm not gonna promise it, but we might have to think about lowering the millage in this particular fund next year. Okay, then the next two funds are the two public safety funds we just talked about. I'm gonna change those from expense to transfer out, the 265 and 266 funds. So I'll move those to general fund. Next one I want to hit on is the 401 capital projects fund. Yep, then next page, go down one more page right there. Paid parking, we had to.
Downtown parking program.
Downtown paid parking program, yep. We had to increase by $10,000. That's to account for moving the parking machines. And then the only other one I want to mention is the park sign replacement. We had increased by $7,000. That's the last one there. And then ending fund balance here is $2.2 million. It's fine. We have enough money. I just want to mention though, the only way this fund is funded is from general fund surplus. So we need to work on increasing that going forward. Okay, then let's talk about the sewer fund. The increase here is for the sewer rehabilitation, the CIPP project. That's just to match the current expense. The other increase I want to talk about is the diesel storage project. That's a roll forward from last year to this year. So it's asking for new money, it's just adjusting the budget. And then the last line is depreciation. If we were talking about budget earlier in the year, remember I mentioned we're going to have depreciation on its own line now. I'm setting that up citywide, so you'll see that in several places. And then because this is an enterprise fund, I just want to mention the change to current assets is our judge on how the fund is doing because a lot of infrastructure in that fund balance. And I'm projecting a decrease in current assets of $386,000. Which is fine, we're in great shape here in the sewer fund. Okay, we're moving on to the 591 fund. The water treatment plant increase. $60,600. The large majority of that is $130,300 for overtime and staff shortages and a new work schedule at the water plant. That's partially offset by all the other lines we can decrease because we're going to have surplus. The water distribution system, an increase of 293, 200. That's an increase for personnel. Personnel is expected to be more than the budget of the new union contract, and that'll be fully staffed. Supplies and inventory has an increase, and that's because we're able to buy water meters at a really good deal, but we had to buy them now. And then professional services increase because of the price when we do main repairs, the outside contractor has increased. And the only other line here in 591 fund I want to mention is the clarifier project. This is just a roll forward of the final expense from prior years. $21,800. All that crushed together, we're going to change current assets by a negative $14,700. So again, we're really in great shape here in this fund. And again, like I was saying, this is worst case scenario. I don't think we're going to be that low. I just need to add for that to cover expense. Okay, then we'll move on to the 592 fund. The only line I want to mention here is the depreciation line, like we've been talking about. You can go down to the fund balance portions. Yep. So change in current assets of negative 310,700, that's perfectly in line with where we thought we'd be during the rate approval. So, and we have plenty here again, so I think the fund's in good shape too. Next fund is the Morphle Fund, and this is an increase for depreciation. And then this fund will also have a net increase of $91,000. We're good there. The next one is the self-insurance fund, and this is an increase for life insurance to 13,200. This is partly due because I'm able, with our new system, able to allocate the expense from the departments to the actual expense that's matching in this fund. So I'm just increasing the budget to account for that. And this is the fund we're trying to spend down. So a negative 34,100 to the fund, the change of fund balance is great. It's not enough though. We still have $1.3 million. So we'll continue on that work. And then the last one is the self-insurance fund that we'll talk about since we made the change. I don't think we're going to have to spend nearly as much. You remember I was talking when we made that change, it was going to be insurance claims that have not been paid yet. They haven't come through. I am just increasing the budget to account for that. I don't think it's actually going to hit. So the negative change of fund balance of $534,600 is probably going to be a lot less. And that's again ending the funds ending at $880,000, which is a really good place to end. But the new insurance is working. It's much better. It's $145,000 of payment versus $170,000. So I'm really happy with what we did. We're just turning out great. And then the last one is a change to next year. We're asking for an increase for the clerk line for the accrual benefits and compensation increase. And this will just straight up changing the amended general fund by $5 million. Does anyone have any questions on all that? It's a lot. I'm sorry I got out so late.
No.
Thank you for explaining everything in such detail.
Yeah.
Okay. Not seeing any questions. What's the pleasure of the commission?
I move to approve the fiscal year 26 and fiscal year 27 budget amendments as presented.
Second.
Any public comment on the matter? Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Ulrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla.
Yes,
Thanks, Ben.
thanks, Ben.
All right, now we just have a report, the Planning Commission 2025 Annual Report.
Hey, evening. I believe you can pull up my, thank you. Absolutely. Just a brief background, we get that pulled up. On May 7th, 2026, the Planning Commission approved with some minor amendments their 2025 annual report. This is a requirement from the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, which requires the Planning Commission to submit a complete report discussing three factors. That would be the operations of the Planning Commission during the past year, the status of any ongoing planning activities, and any goals for 2026, and any recommendations to the City Commission regarding action for its planning and development. In terms of membership, Mr. Justin Pest had resigned from the commission in July of 2025. Mr. Chris Smith was appointed to fill his seat on the commission. Ms. Rice, Mr. Ebert, and Mr. Plichta were all reappointed in April of 2025 for an additional 3-year term. And then during the annual organizational meeting in June, Ms. Hartzell was reappointed to serve as chair, and Mr. Ebert was reappointed to serve as the vice chair of the commission. The overall attendance rate across the board was approximately 84%. Staff was informed of all absences prior to the meeting. And during 2025, the city did not host any on-site training opportunities. Money is budgeted annually for members to complete additional trainings, and several organizations offer training opportunities free of charge. In terms of city staff, the Planning Commission in 2025 was staffed by Kristen Gutterson, the Community Development Director, Lori Schmidt, City Attorney, Trudy Wilder, Building Official Caleb O'Toole, who left in April, and Clinton Levi, the Building Inspector, who started in May. In November 2025, Ms. Gunderson had announced her retirement from the city and left in December. The community development director position was eliminated and the position of zoning administrator was created and advertised. In terms of action items, charts 3 and 4 within the report outline the number of action items completed by the commission, as well as show a comparison from 2025 to the previous few years. With such a small sample size, it's hard to glean any determinations, but we can see a bit of a pattern in that there were a heightened number of applications from 2022 and 2023 to 2024 and 2025 that seems to have been maintained. Several text amendments were seen by the Planning Commission as well as the City Commission. These include amendments to Article 4, which was a change to allow medium-heavy social institutions in the CO district as a permitted use on street level and first floor. And then there were text amendments to Articles 2, 3, and 21 relating to mechanical equipment and required setbacks and the relevant definitions. There were also text amendments to Article 18 to standardize parking calculations for all use types within the city, as well as to define square feet, non-durable goods, and durable goods, and modifying the definition for seating capacity. There were also amendments to Article 9 to the Main Street Overlay District to also include all properties on Main Street, which are in the R1 district, to be included. Lastly, there were text amendments proposed to Article 3 in Table 5-1 to allow for temporary seasonal buildings in the commercial district. That was seen by the City Commission in 2026. And then in terms of goals for 2026, staff believes there'll be a similar amount of private property and business owner requests in 2026 compared to 2025. Those will be taking priority with the Planning Commission. Planning Commission will continue to take direction from the City Commission regarding reviews, discussion, and recommendation of possible amendments to zoning ordinance. This would include continuing the discussion of language for housing choices, specifically accessory dwelling units and daycare will continue in 2026. Staff has been compiling a list of areas that need work within the zoning ordinance. It is anticipated that FEMA will be issuing a new floodplain map associated with St. Joseph River watershed that will require amendments to the zoning ordinance so the city remains compliant with the flood insurance program. And the 2016 master plan is 10 years old this year, so the Planning Commission will need to conduct a review on that to determine if updates are needed, a new plan is required, how they would like to proceed on that matter. And then lastly, our zoning board of appeals. There were a few changes on there. In 2025, Chair Hebert was reappointed to the board. Mark Schmidt resigned in July of 2025 after moving out of the city, and Craig Hubble became a full voting member. The second alternate seat remained vacant during 2025. Members took the Michigan State University Extension Citizen Planner class, with money being budgeted for additional trainings. And there were 10 reviews, 10 properties which were seen for review, which totaled 15 different variance requests, all of which were granted. And that pretty much summarizes the report. Do you have any questions, concerns, clarifications?
None for me, thank you. It's really nice to get an annual update from the Planning Commission. I know they do a lot of work and we don't always get to see what's going on over there. So hearing all this kind of overall in review is really nice to hear. So thank you.
I'd like to take the opportunity just to reiterate that that ADU for me is definitely a priority for the Planning Commission. I know we've made a couple different requests, including the last one, which was supposed to be time sensitive as well. So I would just, I'm not sure if that needs to be an additional item, but I want to reinforce that direction.
I can provide a quick update.
Yeah.
So it was brought back last month as a discussion item.
Okay.
The Planning Commission kind of reiterated their concern that they would like a survey sent out to city residents, kind of get a broader opinion on the matter, see how much interest there is, or if citizens have concerns. So I had drafted a survey that will be presented to them on Thursday for their July 2nd meeting. Assuming they're happy with that, we will distribute that and then move forward from there.
I think that's great because I know there's conversations even happening at a state level right now about what those ADUs might look like. So I think it's in our best interest as a city to make sure we understand what's going on here, because that might be coming to us from Lansing instead.
Just express optimism. I mean, I see this report and admittedly, I get very excited when I see things that planning commissions are doing and because I know the importance and the day-to-day impact that these regulations, every one of those requests, every one of those ordinance has on every one of us. That's the stuff that impacts your life. And this leaves me hungry for more. For years, I think they've been operating a certain way, and so I'm eager to see what you can bring. As you are new this year, so welcome once again. To what you and there have been some changes to our planning commission as well that have happened even since this report in 2026. All of which I believe will really help bring us into the future according.
Thank you.
Thank you for the report. All right, that concludes our agenda. We can do some city manager comments.
I have a few. I want to start by saying that apparently it has come to my attention that Dalton had a presentation that I missed completely. So sorry, Dalton. Thanks for being a really good sport as I completely screwed that up. Also, just want to thank Ben. It is such a joy to work with Ben and to collaborate with him on all things budget, and just could not be more appreciative of what he does for the city every day. I want to quickly thank the library. Paula has been amazing. Our elevator was supposed to be functional again as of yesterday. No, as of Friday, it is not. We're told it will be functional again as of tomorrow, which is a day late and a dollar short. So thank you to the library for always supporting us and being such a great team. Not just Paula, but also Zach, who committed to staying late and is upstairs, and Joe, who spent a lot of time with me today and with Greg and his team getting everything set up. And then last but not least, wanted to share some upcoming events. So Friday, July 3rd, fireworks will be at dusk around 10 p.m. Saturday, July 4th is the municipal band concert at 7 p.m. in the band shell. The regular weekly municipal band concerts will begin on Sundays at 7 p.m. coming up this Sunday. Krasl Art Fair, of course, is the following weekend. I'm personally very much looking forward to that. Antiques on the Bluff will be on Sunday, and our first movies in the park will be next Saturday. It is National Treasure at Milton Park at 7:30. So lots coming up in the city of St. Joe.
Great, thank you for that. City commission comments. Nothing. All right. Stay cool out there. If you have any neighbors who might be considered vulnerable, check in on them. It can be hot, and if you don't have air conditioning, like I don't right now, it can be very, very hot in your house. So just keep an eye on the people around you. And happy 4th of July. We will conclude the meeting at 7:38.